was gonna make an update before on this stuff, but I'll make it now with so Canada, and this has to do with the Trump administration. I've been helping out. Canada came back against my tariff because I told Trump for the 25%. If you're uninformed, he came back with they came back with more I put tariffs on them at I think 25%, but they came back with 25 on electric and shit or something like that, and then they went to like 29. I'm trying to tell Trump, because they're still in my phone. I'm think that they're still in my phone as of today, still too, but I'm thinking 29. You round it up, for 29, like you round it up to 30 and you double it, and throw it back at them because they added another tariff. I got China down to 15 while we're at 20, and you basically smoke Canada until they give up. And I told Trump to basically say you have a week, or to put your tariffs down to where you're giving us 5% essentially on 5% on us winning 5% essentially, and then we won't invade you, because it would take us like a fucking day. I mean, we have millions of people in active service, and they have like I think 100,000 tops. It would take us like no time, and they wouldn't even probably put up much of a fight. So I told him to say that, and we'll see what they say. I'm pretty much guaranteeing he's gonna fold like an omelet. So Russia gave the signal. They hit the tank and stuff, or the boat and stuff like that. And because I had talked to them about certain things about them running over the EU if they continue to help or try to help Canada and Mexico out of their tariffs and being a part of our country, and we can end up fucking up liberalism in the process. So and that was the cue. I'm guessing that they're cool with that somewhat, even though they know I'd take it over once they conquered it somewhat, and we can split it. But I'd be cool with them for doing, I'd be fair to you for doing a lot of work, which a lot of people won't be fair to you, i.e. other Republicans, or any other dictator or person in politics. Basically, so it's gonna probably be fine. I told Trump to basically say that you can't lie on a birth certificate, so you can't make yourself trans on a birth certificate, and you can't lie. So that's a federal charge now, which is nice. And everybody is XX or XY unless they have a syndrome. I'm trying to get him to do the syndrome thing, where you put syndromes as a disability, because they are. Everyone who has a Y, at least one, is a male. According to science, on some level, you having a Y makes you somewhat of a male in that regard. Even though if the genetics don't work, you won't look like a male or whatever, you still have a Y. So that is somewhat of a man thing, because the Y carries the genetics to make a male. But sometimes even male genetics, when they're fully formed, pretty much don't even work, let's say, or don't have complications. So like, what really is a male? So if you want to say that all that is a male, right, under the definition of male, that would include anything that it basically is male oriented, like within the chromosomes and the genetics, right? Well, if you have a Y, even to carry the genes to make you male, that would make you male, is basically what I'm trying to tell him. So they can and if you have just base XX, which is what it comes to base wise, you know what I mean, or just even an X, like on a syndrome type of thing, because I've seen like where it says just X, for a syndrome, that essentially makes it to where I'm tired, like that, that you're basically coming from just the X or X's to as soon as you have a Y, which is the only other thing, you're essentially like, that's the thing for carrying those genes, the way that X is for carrying, feminine genes. So, in some regards too, like if you have a syndrome and it's like even XX, let's say, and another X, then you could be like, having some sort of, maybe if you have like some sort of thing, that's manly looking, like if you were tall, let's say, for whatever syndrome that applies to, like that would make it to where you looked more manly, even though technically you were a female, which is wild. But it's like, as long as you have the chromosomes, right, all that is kind of like with the idea of the way it is, basically, which is the only thing that really differentiates between different types of chromosomes, is like the Y. So it's like, that's really the differentiating factor. You see what I'm trying to say? Because everything, I think, like pretty much, as long as you don't have a Y, is going to be even if it looks, let's say, male, there's some things even that females have, like bigger muscles or a jawline or whatever, that are following in between, like that are kind of manly. So, but I'm saying, like, the main differentiation in science, for a reason, because it's like the main thing that differentiates the chromosomes, the actual things that make you, with the genetics involved, is essentially Y. That is like the main differentiation, because if you just had X's, whatever, even if there's different variances in it and stuff, it's like, with those same kind of variances, it's going to be different with the Y, you know what I mean? So the Y is like the differentiating factor in terms of that regard, kind of thing. Like, that's the way that they are kind of trying to say it's different from just having X's, an accumulation of those, and whatever happens with those accumulated. So I'm trying to get him to do intersex as a disability and trans as a disability. So like, they're probably not going to want them in the military, government, whatever. I've been trying to say that you should be able to put them in there along with anybody else, and just hire diverse, as long as they aren't involved with LGBTQ and wokeness and whatever, and to give them a shot, but they have no green nails and no, their hair, has to be tied up, and they have to have, the right look and act accordingly, and they can fire them for whatever reason that they want to, because it's their business, and that all businesses in this country will be able to do so and won't have to worry about DEI on any level. And discriminating against anybody on any sort of level or whatever, you know what I mean? So that's what I think, and the government is basically, they might need certain groups of people in particular, and they might have to say no to others, and there's extenuating circumstances, to things. So I think there's enough diversity to allow for really a lot of freedom, and it's American, in itself, and it's like good enough to do the right thing with all that stuff, and just make it free, and people can just stick to their own, or people who want to hire them and whatnot, and it'll work out. We also can keep, European heritage and American heritage, and, Christian culture here. Really mainly just the way it goes is the way it goes throughout time. I think it's mainly a country of, choosing via the Democratic Republic is really the basis of it. It's not necessarily any sort of which way, like Christian oriented necessarily, whatever, even though it has been predominantly very at times. But even the Declaration doesn't really say anything about God, like that. It just is like, very descriptive of more so laws in Democratic Republic ideals. I think that, and that's what I was thinking on when I had said other things that made, I was making decisions and stuff to tell him about things. So, take that into consideration. And, I want to say that, I think that, like, he should, next step would be, if he does that stuff, to try and establish, like, if somebody has been majority here instead of another country their whole life, then they can run for office. I think would be a good new one to add some restraint to, foreign spies and foreign people against the administration at hand or government at hand, and, very biased on their politics and stuff. I don't think this discriminating against any groups really will help with that, but that is only if their group sits there and is only if their group sits there and does the right thing. If your group is LGBTQ and you talk about that, then you need to be looked at as possibly a terrorist organization, because they do a lot of violence and they're just not a good group right at the moment. But you can then break them of that and be like kind of like the Hells Angels now, which aren't really watched like that so much, and whatever, and other groups that aren't really watched as much, that have dialed it down and are now charitable, and like you basically break them like a RICO type deal, or for anybody who's doing stuff, or you break them the same way that you would break any other gangs, and make them more into doing peaceful stuff. And you shouldn't do, like I said, I want him to have laws, and I think he already did put the law in for you can't do protests at government facilities and of any type, and you cannot put like certain woke flags or LGBTQ flags up. You can't put anything like that aside from like American type shit, on those buildings. Veteran kind of oriented type of stuff. And that would be like their property essentially, and you vote in for the government, who you want, but it's essentially a business in itself and a property in itself, and therefore they can conduct themselves within traditions and whatever they want now because of how he changed it. And I think that's a good thing, and it's based on what I've told him. Now my problem with him is that he had to do with destroying some of my dogs, and things that I've said and whatever, and investigations going on with me and whatever, and that's why they were in my phone. But it was all illegal and stuff like that, but they were trying to make sure I didn't squeal, but they found themselves not to be lucky, and the people that they gave it to be in my phone as well, and who were watching over my phone and whatever as well, already, like my coach Rob Kahn and others, they were probably in my phone a lot, and they've been in my phone for a hot minute and whatever. So stuff like that, they've been watching over what's been going on within my phone and stuff, and it's been spreading around stuff too. So it basically was like, I played it a certain way so that everybody involved would try and not get me and like let it go, basically, and try to like to do the right thing and admit. And so now I have it up in my position basically to not squeal or whatever, which I'm more Republican, but I think that on some level they are kind of giving it to me, even though they are trying to hurt me for things, because they could do pretty much a lot of shady shit if they really wanted to. But in general, though, I played in a certain way where a lot of different people would be on me and trying to be in my phone, whatever. So it was a good attempt, and I essentially like won the chess game in that regard. But and I knew that certain people were in my phone. And I played it the way so yeah, I played it the way it is. So yeah. So it's like I want to have him do I would like to have him try to make it to where if any office in government, you could be 30, because that's when people are like pretty much fully developed and full grown and adjusted to their brain chemistry. I pretty much solved with him the Ukraine deal and the Russia deal. They're about to go meet, and he's doing everything I told him to meet up and finish the deal with Russia, because they're going to be willing to deal so long as the EU doesn't do something stupid, and we'll just let Russia run them the fuck over, so along with Ukraine, if it's that serious, you're not going to do business with the people that we are going to be trying to acquire, and and trying to tariff. So like I said, we got China to sit the fuck down, and with the help of Japan and others, and we essentially stood up to the stuff happening around the world with liberalism and democracy in the wrong way, in a lot of ways, and they have to essentially pay a tariff and make themselves look like we are the kings, you know, basically of the world in a way, because we do essentially have the most power in general. We could just pull the fuck out and they would crush their whole thing and we would be fine, versus them, well, not so much, because we have, I think, number 2 in resources right now. We have number 1 in military per country, and we have I think number 3 in population, and that entails for the best, and we're number 1 in cloud, so you know that entails for the best understanding of, you know, pretty much like, you know, you have people, resources, and you have military, and really in money I think we're still number 1, so that's like 5. You know, we're pretty much just, you know, way past others in all, you know, in general in regards to, you know, our country. So you know, they, you know, did the right kind of stuff, and we'll see how it plays out. But you know, I know basically what's going to happen. But yeah, you know, I'm trying to get my money for this stuff, but Trump, we'll see what he does. I gave him some stuff to say to me in the news or whatever, so that I know what is going on with that. But you know, I don't know what that noise is, but you know, I tried to give him some way to, you know, tell me that he'll help me pay for stuff, and, or you know, I gave him a Stargate idea, and I'm trying to have him pay me 1% for it, and you know, try to help me out financially with the stuff that I helped him on. But you know, I guess it was rocky, even though I'm a troll. But you know, he, you know, might have taken some things, you know, the wrong way, I guess, or he's just trolling me back. So we will see. You know, I'm definitely wanting him to do the thing where, you know, like, in order to get office, you have to live here most of the time over other countries, and you know, he can also later on, if it's still being problematic by like the end of his term, let's say, he can put it to where, you know, if there's a lot of issues in the time being, even with his help in the government and stuff, after like a year, let's say, to give it some time to, you know, manifest in the government, you know, in a better, more productive way, and you know, functional way, and more towards what our goals were. You know, he can label, I mean, he can say that if you live in another country that is dual citizenship, then you cannot be in government. That's actually a really good idea and concept, but it's also problematic because some people really are useful and want to come here and be powerful here, and that's like a lot of their drive to do that, is to come here and be a politician, and they bring a lot of money, yada yada yada. And I told him about the $5 million gold deal and all this other stuff that he's doing, which would kind of be different to that, you know what I mean? Because if you were going to live here, you would want to maybe run for politics after some time. If you were like a high roller type of, you know, if you were a big baller, essentially, you know, type of person, and you know, it would be more on less on how we're looking with spies and what the idea is on spies, because you know, it just depends on what you're seeing. You know, I wouldn't want to, you know, anything, you know, could be like somewhat of a possibility, so I would probably want to keep that door open. It depends on how bad it gets, and like, you know, like I said, those are changes that, those are changes that a president should make, you know, depending on the circumstance. And you know, do I trust him somewhat? Sure. Do I trust him as much as, you know, me, or like, you know, in the idea that I'm the one pretty much giving him all the ideas right now? You know, that's a rocky, you know, thing to answer. So I think that it's good that, you know, for me to sit by and watch and see how it goes. I really am telling him that if he wants my help, you know, he needs to change intersex to a disability of XX and XY, and just make sure you get with scientists on everything and make that a thing, and you know, make it to where, you know, I don't want cops abusing people anymore. You know, I told him to pardon Derek Chauvin on the murders, but you know, he should get charged for excessive force and misdoing his duties and not giving the guy CPR, even if Floyd might have been an issue if he let off of his neck. He did choke a child that way, and the child was fine, so he's proven that it works before. Chauvin, Floyd, there's no real evidence to support that he really was mainly choked out. The people who did it were liberals that supported that, and they were all of that kind of mindset within, doctors and whatever, so I think that's a really serious issue, that they would do something like that, because I watched it in depth, and there's really no way to know, and for coming from somebody who knows firsthand that if somebody puts knee on neck, as long as you move your head to the side, you usually are fine, and he was talking for so long that I think it's BS, mainly because Derek Chauvin didn't really move that much force different and in placement different. I just think it was more of his heart gave out, or he lost too much oxygen, and wasn't breathing in that well because of the choke. But he also has fentanyl in the system, which is why he lost so much oxygen. And his heart is, has an extreme abnormality to it, and requires a lot more oxygen. So I think that he essentially was problematic like that for himself, and that's why he randomly, when he was freaking out, he exasperated himself to the point of losing consciousness, and I think that he died because mainly of maybe fentanyl, and because fentanyl can make you like that. It can shut you down, and it might not be, that quick or whatever, but, if you're not breathing that well, and Derek Chauvin's using regular force, and he doesn't even know that you have a heart defect, you can't even charge him with that. And, I think that it had a lot to do with him just freaking himself out. Because when you do that, you don't even know necessarily how internally he's going to, how internally he's going to be dealing with the fentanyl and his exasperation, and his face might not show it that much, or his actions might not show it that much, and then he could go out cold, kind of, and then still be barely, breathing, even though he's out cold, and, maybe him being calmer is not sucking in enough oxygen to power his heart, especially with the fentanyl problems. So there's really no concrete evidence in my mind, and so I'm hoping that he does pardon him for the murders, but don't pardon him for the murder. Don't pardon him for the excessive force and the misconduct and procedure on his behalf. For the two other instances where he's done like a rear naked choke to a kid and held a girl who was, who had chains on her, handcuffs, and he was like holding her really high up and kind of carting her along and carrying her along the way, which is very abusive, but they didn't get harmed really that bad. I think the kid, the guy only had like 2 stitches or something on his head, because of a flashlight strike, which, he was using strikes when he really didn't have to, but, he is able to use strikes to discombobulate the attacker or a person who seems agitated enough. I'm not into that. It doesn't make really any sense. People should just wrestle people to the ground unless they are in defense of their lives by the suspect. I think that he definitely held restraint on the rear naked choke to the guy, but he was in general fairly abusive and to her too, and they didn't get harmed like that. But he didn't. He did have 2 stitches, but it probably wasn't that big of a deal. He probably would have just healed fine if he just let it go for a little bit. But in general, I think that he is very abusive, and he's done this to a lot of people, and he's had lots of complaints for being abusive and not doing the proper procedures. And even if they allowed him to do such a thing, the idea that he does it in those situations when he doesn't have to is completely like unnecessary, and it shows like the idea that he's an aggressive type of cop for no reason, and that's not a good thing, and he kind of should be, at least should have been fired for that. But I don't think that, they said that it's against the rules to put the girl's arms like that, and it's against, it's excessive to do what he did to the guy. As far as, unnecessary force. So I think that in a bad way, unnecessary force. So I think he should be charged for that, and do whatever the statute is for that. Trump might do, since he's been in jail type of thing. He's good to go, and he got stabbed. He's good to go. And just kind of pardon, and on like what would be like a plea deal type of thing. If it was not just him pardoning him. I'm trying to think. Like, I think that he, what's it called? I think that he, should do a good job with pardoning him. I think that he should give him excessive force though, and he didn't do CPR on him, so, which is another thing that, unless he said that Floyd was possibly dangerous, which he kind of slightly might have been, but that's very hard to prove. But like I said, if you could do that, then sure. But or say it that way, and people don't, riot or do crazy stuff. But yeah, I think that he's going to be fine with police. I am worried about, riots and stuff, and them being extremely aggressive in the public. So I was trying to tell him, don't do that shit. And yeah. So I think with him that he basically you basically like have to understand that they're pushing them too far, and I think that if he gives them the intersex thing as disabilities, and it actually would play into his idea that he might not want them in the military if he wants to keep it that way, or if he does, it could just be like he does put them in there, but they have to follow the rules and not be a part of an extremist group or be extremely politically biased and say all that in the military and do the military work and stuff based on that bias. And I think it would be fine. But if somebody makes a joke about their bias or something, or their political beliefs, that's another thing, which is fine because people make jokes in the military. But if you are doing it a lot, or even just enough to where it's like not really a joke, and you're making a disturbance, and you're not doing your job as a military person to kind of keep that at home and to yourself, or in public when you're not at work, then you could be fired. I think that the country's going to be looking better. That's a good thing. With all that, I think that BlackRock now inflating prices and buying up everything with China, yada yada yada, is bad unless everybody makes a lot more money and they don't have property taxes, which he's working on, which is my idea, and the tariff other places and sell other places weapons, so long as we keep all the weapons, and we can make a lot of money that way. I mean, all the good weapons, excuse me, and to be able to be more powerful, so we can make more money that way. And we'll have high minimum wages, but we'll also have no income tax, and I think that would help tremendously. But BlackRock's going to inflate every little damn thing, so that's the problem. You have to. I think people need to stop that, but I don't think he's going to. That's really the main issue, I think. But if he gets stuff down in price and stuff, then then that would be perfectly kind of acceptable, to do it. Even if BlackRock inflates, people don't have to buy their shit, and gas and everything will be so much cheaper. It won't be that big of a deal. I think BlackRock might have gave him a deal on some shit, like I said, to be a dick. Kind of had an idea that they might do some shit like that, but as long as the country's doing much better, capitalism is fine. I'm okay with it for now. But people want me to run in response to him. They want me to fight him on stuff, but like I said, you're on your own in this country, which is not necessarily a bad thing. You don't need all these social benefits from Social Security, whatever. I think if you are actually disabled, like you have anxiety, blah blah blah, that kind of thing, then you should be taken care of if it affects your work, or even if you have trans or mental problems, or if you're intersex, you should have benefits if it affects your work, to where you get help every month in your life. But you ultimately should be trying to work if you can, and benefits should be applied accordingly. And everything else, even to seniors and stuff, shouldn't be that much, and veterans shouldn't be that much. They should be able to supply themselves, but I think that they should have like benefits for VA and stuff like that type of deal, a lot more. But with the savings and whatever, I don't really think that that's a good deal to them. If everything goes up and they can just save their own money. But if they want to give them benefits, then I think that they should give all kinds of people benefits, disabled, whatever types of people, individuals, or people that are, hurt, in general, basically, and can't work. They should get some sort of help, maybe in families who are struggling, kind of thing. I think, he should help people also, maybe when he gets more money and stuff going with certain things. But for now, I am much wanting him more than others, and I think that he's doing a good job, and we'll see how the rest of it plays out. But I think that he is definitely doing a hell of a lot better than other candidates. So I think that he needs to just do my deal and pay me and help, and so I'll help him, and we can go from there. And I think that he should go for multiple terms. He should go for another term and even one after, because he's on number 2 now. He could go 3 and 4. He should make them 5 years as well. And so you basically have it to where you're you could be 30 and apply to be a president, or try to be president and get voted in, or government official of any type, and you should have to live here the majority of your life. And maybe in the future, no dual citizenship, but for right now, just try that, and try to weed out all the people in the government. They're weeding out the Department of Education, and they're trying to get down 50-50, and it's they're getting down, all the liberals basically, and just kind of trying to keep 50-50 so it doesn't look like they're just super biased, and don't even necessarily say liberals, but you don't want to stir them up necessarily, and I think that's what they were doing, even though everyone already heard it. But that's just what I said, so, on some level. So I think that for the most part, they don't want that much smoke, unless they're just trying to joke with it. But, because why would you only do 50% unless it's just to copy me, basically, and go with what I said. So, we'll see what else did they do, with what I said, and, how much they change it. So if they change too much, or enough to, or at all, really, I'm going to think that, it's not just for a joke, but usually they can joke, but I'll try to decipher what exactly that they're doing in this regard, with it, are they just a little afraid, or are they trying to just kind of joke and not do even more, than that, because you could probably cut more than that, and be some sort of well-off in the government, and just have the really bare minimum, and pay for a lot more government, military spending, a lot more border spending, and the stuff that matters more, than things that can be cut, that are unnecessary, or really beneficial, depending on what it is, for the country, because if it's the stuff I've been talking about, that kind of thing, and whatever else is a possibly good beneficial thing, that we come to a conclusion on, or they do, depending on what happens. So overall it's looking much better. So I'm more happy with America, and I do like America, more than other places, and there's, a lot of things I like about here, and I'm fighting for it. So, with regards to cops, I don't trust cops still because, they're cops, but, if they start doing the right thing, I have more trust for them. It's really that simple, and same with special ops and military in general. So, I would even support if they, in general, looked more than 50%, really, like way more, really, is what you should go for. But yeah, if you're over 50%, but right now it's shaky and hard to say, and really, it's like, I don't support things like, I'm not going to just talk too much about it and stuff and act like I'm so into them, because I'm just not that into them. But, they do better, then I'm going to be more into you, so it's just how it goes. But yeah, just stay tuned. I'm waiting to get some food. I'm fucking hungry, and trying to see at some point if I can like leave my house maybe, but I doubt that I'll be able to for I don't know how long, but we'll see. SNL skits that I came up with were great. People saw them, and they've been using my ideas and stuff because he was spreading around to people trying to make me kind of famous and stuff and whatever. Even if he does kind of like X me out of Stargate and change the name and do something else and not include it with my name kind of thing, and yada, he would just be playing into looking like an absolute douche. So we'll see. But yeah. Hopefully, Elon will help with the cat robot or whatever kind of goes into play with them helping me. We'll see. Like I said, I'd help Elon too with what he's, trying to accomplish after Trump, let's say, after he goes for more terms or whatever he's doing. And yeah, so we'll see how that kind of goes. And yeah.